Hello, welcome to Neppy Invest. Another video where I focus on companies who had released their Appendix 4C towards the end of January. Now, in this case, these three companies I'll be focusing on this video all released their quarterly cash flow report on the same day, January 29. So I'll be looking at Little Green Pharma, which may have the best name on the ASX. Not sure about that, but it is a pretty good name. It also reminds me of Mars for some reason. I don't know why. It's a bit of a mystery there. Maybe has to do with little green men. Who knows? Also be looking at Zoono. Now, this company was a market darling between about October 2019 and July 2020. Has that continued, or has the sentiment behind this company changed? And I'll look into this company and whether there is a potential buy there. And the last company I'll be looking at is red.com.au. Now, the market reacted quite a bit differently to these three companies' report. One company, the market reacted quite positively. Another company, the market reacted quite negatively. And the other company, the market was sort of ho-hum about. It wasn't until a few days after the release of the quarterly cash flow report that the market got very excited about that company. And I'll talk about that, or the reason behind that, when I get to that company. So let's get to the first company, which is Little Green Pharma. So this is a marijuana company. So I haven't done any videos on marijuana companies just yet. And the main reason behind that is they're all fairly young. There's no real sort of any indication which company is going to win. There's a lot of companies out there in this space. And Little Green Pharma is one of those companies, and it may have reached an inflection point. I'll get into the reason why in a second. Now, they listed on the 20th of February 2020, and that could have been the worst timed IPO in history, because a few days after that, that's when we saw the COVID-19 financial panic. Share market just tanked it for like a month after that, so Little Green Pharma did feel the effects of that. But since then, it's grown quite well, and the market cap has gone up to $129 million. Now, when you look at the financial numbers for the last financial year, revenue of $2.2 million and operating cash flow negative 6.4. You have to take that with a bit of grain of salt, particularly because when I show you the quarterly cash flow report, those numbers quite aren't representative of what the company is doing right now. So if you want more information on Little Green Pharma, or the Mars company I like to call it, you can look at their Appendix 4C on the 29th of January. They have some good information in that report. So this is their Appendix 4C, particularly they're just looking at their operating cash flow. So you can see receipts from customers for this quarter is $1.9 million. So they're very near the amount of revenue they had in the previous financial year. So they are increasing these revenue, the receipts, quite quickly just by looking at some of these numbers. And if you look at the bottom line there, the most important line that I really like to focus on is, are they operating cash flow negative or positive? In this case, they are operating cash flow positive to the tune of $853,000, but a bit of warning there. They did get $1.6 million in government grants and tax incentives. So I'd like to take that into account when I look at whether a company is cash flow positive or negative, because typically those government grants and tax incentives are fairly lumpy. In some quarters, they don't get anything. So I like the company to be operating cash flow positive without any government grants and tax incentives. But in any case, it has been a very positive quarter for Little Green Pharma. They began the quarter with $4.16 million of cash on hand, and they finished it a little bit higher with $4.5 million. Now, not only did they get the government grants and tax incentives, they also received $787,000 in the exercise of options. And because they had a lot of cash coming in, they were able to repay some loans to the tune of $1 million. And that's also a big tick. I like to see companies like Little Green Pharma not have a lot of debt, because a lot of times debt can be quite debilitating for a company like Little Green Pharma, because the interest rates can be quite high. Now, if you know anything about me, you know I like to see the trend in cash receipts. So having a number like $1.9 million in isolation tells you nothing. How is the cash receipts going? Is it increasing? Is it increasing at a quick rate? That sort of thing. And we can see by, even though it's a fairly young company on the ASX, we do have 4 quarters of history here, which is probably not a lot. I like to see a little bit more history, but over those 4 quarters, we have seen the cash receipts increase from $630,000 to $1.9 million. So it has tripled over the past year. And the compound quarterly growth rate of cash receipts is right now at 44.5%. Now, if they can maintain that sort of growth rate over the next few years, this is going to be a phenomenal growth story on the ASX. So, I am doubtful they can continue that sort of growth rate, but it is something that needs to be looked at, and maybe that's the reason why the market is getting excited, because of this sort of growth rate in the company. Now, as mentioned, the market is getting excited. So this is looking back at the last 6 months on the chart. Share price got as low as about 25 cents in August, start of September, and really around about late October into early November. Looks like sentiment and turnaround of the share price began then around 35 cents, and it's just been going higher ever since. Nice little consolidation period between the late November into the start of or middle of January. Share price was hovering around 50 to 60 cents. But once it started to, we saw the release of the quarterly cash flow report, the share price has risen about 50% or so. So it's gone from about just above 60 cents all the way to nearly $1. In fact, on the last trading day, the 4th of February, the share price did get to $1 and then pulled back. And you can see the volume also increasing. That's another bullish sign. So a lot of bullishness around the share price, around a little green Pharma. Now, there is a little effect of this increasing share price, and we've seen that on the 5th of February. They have gone into a trading halt in regards to a capital raising and a material commercial update. So this is actually fairly intriguing trading halt. If they didn't have that material commercial update, just the capital raising in itself wouldn't be that intriguing. In fact, it wouldn't be surprising at all, because this is the ideal time for a company to do a capital raising when the share price has just zipped up by 50% or so in a very short period of time. It's almost perfect time to do a capital raising. Now, the thing that does interest me is, what does the material commercial update mean? And has that got something to do with the capital raising? So do they have to raise more capital because of the material commercial update? So looking forward to the release of this, the reason behind this trading halt, and that should happen in the next few trading days. Next company I'll be looking at is Zoono. Now, this was a market darling between about October 2019 and July 2020. In fact, the share price rose 20 times. So it went from about 15 cents all the way up to $3. There was a lot of tailwinds behind this company, and I'll get into that in a second. So ticker code ZNO or ZNO, depending how you pronounce Z or Z. Market cap $167 million. You can see the financials for the previous financial year look pretty good. A revenue of $36 million and operating cash flow 7.6. Now, this company was a major beneficiary of the COVID-19 and the fact that we all wanted to be clean, wanted to wash our hands, that sort of thing. That's what they do, provide that sort of antimicrobial solutions. They develop, hand sanitizers, that sort of thing. But the question is, did people buy them in bulk, that sort of thing? Are they buying them anymore, that sort of products? So if you want to have a look at their most recent Appendix 4C, you can go to their 29th of January announcement and have a closer look at how they've been doing. So this is the operating cash flow for Zoono, and there's a few things we can take away from this. Now, the receipts from customers in the previous quarter, or this quarter, was $5.5 million. Now, in isolation, that means nothing, but we can have some bit of context to that number when you look at the next column, and that's a year-to-date, so that includes the previous quarter to this one, and the year-to-date receipts is 20.5. So just inferring from that number, we know that the previous quarter cash receipts was $15 million, so they're substantially lower this quarter. But even though they are substantially low in cash receipts, they are still operating cash flow positive to the tune of $1.5 million. And that has to be a bit of a positive. So there is a bit of a negative, much lower cash receipts, but a positive is they are cash flow positive in operations. Now, that's not the whole story. They did begin the quarter with $7.5 million of cash, and they finished a little bit lower with 7.3. So even though they were operating cash flow positive, we did see overall cash flow negative for the quarter, and the reasons that they were overall cash flow negative largely to do with investing activities, some non-current assets, and they did experience negative exchange rates for the quarter, and that led to the overall cash flow out of the business. So this is their receipts history. I think this is sort of a receipts history where you've got to step back and not really take anything away from this, because we saw a massive growth in cash receipts from April into July, where the cash receipts went from 590,000 all the way up to 19.8 million in July 2020. So a lot of tailwinds behind this business simply because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And since then, we've seen cash receipts go backwards from $20 million all the way to $5 million this quarter. So I think what we have to think about, or we have to see, or what the company has to prove in the next few quarters is this trend in cash receipts over the last few quarters, which is quite down quite a bit, is that going to continue for the foreseeable future? Or can they level off the cash receipts in the next few quarters? Or can we even see the cash receipts rise? And I think that's going to be very important moving forward for this company. And really those compound quarterly growth rates of 24% and 36%, you can sort of throw those numbers away because we don't know what's going to happen, I think, in the next few quarters. So I think if you're fairly bullish that Zoono cash receipts or the money coming into the business will grow, their products are fairly popular, and we're going to see more and more people buy them. And if you think that sort of thesis, then this could be a good time to buy, or soonish. For me, I'd like just wait to see some confirmation that this trend in cash receipts on the way down is going to stop or slow down or even start going up. This is a 3-year weekly chart for Zoono. We saw that inflection point in October 2019 where cash receipts were $1.2 million, and they were cash flow positive. That was the first catalyst for this company for the re-rating of the share price. And then they had those tailwinds of the COVID-19 pandemic, and that pushed the share price even higher. So it went from about 15 cents all the way to $3 over about 9-month period. So that's a very large share price increase over a fairly short time period. Now, hopefully you did sell out if you're a shareholder around $3, because since then the share price has gone backwards ever since then. So it's gone from $3 all the way to about $1 as I speak, on decreasing volume as well. So the market's becoming less and less interested in this company, and there's a definite downtrend. And we can see that in the next slide, which is the 8-month daily chart. We can see a definite downtrend from that high in the share price, which was reached around July. The share price was just above $3, and ever since then, the share price has been going down and down. So we're seeing lower lows, lower highs, which is the definition of a downtrend. And right now, the share price is around $1. The release of the quarterly cash flow report, the share price did decrease by something like 15% on the day. So the market did react quite negatively to their quarterly cash flow report. So at this time, just looking at this chart, there's no reason to buy just yet. I think the main thing to wait for is to wait for a consolidation period in the share price, maybe wait for the share price to start a new uptrend. And if it does start a new uptrend, perhaps there's going to be some news around that. Maybe the cash receipts in the next quarter start going up again, that sort of thing. So at this point in time, I personally am just going to wait. I've got it on my watch list, and I'll wait for some sort of inflection point with Zoono's share price, a change in sentiment, a change in trend. The last company I'll be doing today is a company that's been in the news the last few days, and it wasn't because of their quarterly cash flow report. In fact, the reason this company's been in the news happened a few days after. So this company, rent.com.au, is a place where, if you want to rent, you go to this platform, you find houses to rent. Maybe if you're a landlord, this is where you put your house up for renters, that sort of things. Now, I'm an owner, so I don't need to use this platform or this product, but just because I don't need to use it doesn't mean I wouldn't invest in it. That's a silly sort of idea that you only invest in things that you would use. Now, the market cap of this company is $55 million, which is substantially higher than it has been, and we'll see the reasons behind that soon. And if you look at their financials over the last financial year, revenue of $2.5 million and operating cash flow negative to the tune of 0.8. So nothing too exciting there at this point in time. When we look at their Appendix 4C, the operating cash flow, receipts from customers, 821,000. So that is actually its high point. So an all-time high for cash receipts, but it's not a lot at this moment. I only had 821,000. And most importantly, they are still operating cash flow negative to the tune of 133,000. That's not a lot. So it's not far from being operating cash flow positive. So when I actually did see this, I went, oh, this could be an interesting company in the future if they do become operating cash flow positive, because they are increasing their receipts from customers quite slowly. And I do like that sort of company. Now, they began the quarter with $2.3 million of cash, finish it with 1.8 million, which means based off their cash flow or cash flow out of the business, they have about 3 to 4 quarters of cash flow available to them, which might suggest they might be needing a capital raising quite soon or in the next year or so. This is the receipts history, and the main thing I look for here is an uptrend. And there is definitely an uptrend. It's a slow uptrend. In fact, the compound quarterly growth rate since April 2016 is at 7.6%, which is actually not that bad when you really think about it. 7.6% per quarter. Annualized would be about 30% per year. But when we look at the last 10 and 5 quarters, it has been going slowly. Over the last 10 quarters, it's only been going up 2.2% per quarter, and last 5 quarters, 4.5%. But definitely over the last, or since January 2019, we have seen an upwards trend definitely beginning to form there. So a very slow upwards trend, but that's not a bad thing. I have seen companies have very slow growth rates when it comes to cash receipts become quite successful. So this is the 1-year daily chart up until 28th of January. Now I chose up until 28th of January, which is the day just before they released their quarterly cash flow report. Now, I've done this for a reason. There's not been a lot of excitement about this company in the market. You can see the share price has gone sideways. There have been some troughs, so COVID-19 financial panic, the share price got down to 2.5 cents. It reached a peak in around about September, just above 6 cents or so. But it's been trading between those two prices for the whole year. So nothing's exciting happening at all. But you just see what's happening in the last 4 trading days. So from the 2nd of February, things have happened to the share price. You can see a massive amount of volume has come into the business. And the reason behind that was a share placement to a strategic investor. Now, it's fairly unusual to see a share placement lead to a share price rising 202%, and the share placement was at 5 cents. So it wasn't like at 15 cents or anything, it was at 5 cents. But it was the name behind the strategic investor, and that was the catalyst behind the share price increasing. So Bevan Slattery, and just that name will cause excitement in the market. So Bevan Slattery made a bit of a strategic investment into rent.com.au, and that's seen the share price rise from, roughly just about 5 cents all the way up to 20 cents last time I looked. So it's a 4 times increase in the share price. So, he's, I think the strategic investment was at 5 cents. He's already made 4 times his money in 4 days. So that's what happens when you have a name behind your investment. So that's all I've got in this video of these 3 companies who released their Appendix 4C. So the market reacted quite a bit differently to all these 3 companies. Little Green Pharma, the market has got quite excited. Zoono, the market has got the complete opposite. Its sentiment is quite low around that company. And rent.com.au, the market was very ho-hum, but the market has got very excited because Bevan Slattery has decided he thinks this is a great company to invest some of his money in. So that's all for this video. Again, I'm not a professional advisor, so if you do need professional advice about your own financial circumstances, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified. That's all for this video. Have a good day. Talk to you later. Bye.